So secondly, in regards to Epic and Apple, let's go ahead and talk about that subject. So Epic Games was trying to get around the monetization, the way that Apple monetizes their games in regards to microtransactions. So on any app that's on an Apple device, any microtransaction you make on an app, 30% of that goes to Apple, as well as the base price of the game itself when you buy it on the store. Now, 30% is a bit steep, I feel, for nowadays, but it's not impossible. And there are many games out there, many mobile apps out there that are perfectly fine and are making plenty of money, even with that 30% cut that Apple takes. Now, Epic Games is not a fan of the 30%. They had even asked Apple if they were willing to make a deal for their Fortnite game. Apple refused, and so this is the way Epic retaliates by trying to sue. Not trying to sue, but getting around that fact and having the money go straight to Epic instead of through Apple, so Apple does not receive the 30% cut. Apple, of course, has to respond by closing the game, removing it from the App Store. And then Epic then sues Apple for it. So I think we know that much. Now, in regards to the lawsuit and who would win and who would not, Apple more likely than not will win. I want Epic to win just because I want to see that development price go from 30% to 15 or 12, but I doubt that's going to happen. And the only way that there's going to be actual competition to an extent in that market would be as if Google Play lowers their development from 30% to 20 or 10 or whatever, because there's too many people. There's millions of phones out there that are running on Apple. There's millions of phones out there that are running Google and Android. So even on a cut like that, you don't have to worry too much about the price of your game. It's still going to sell, and it's going to sell them in who knows how many people, and you're going to make money off of it for the most part, depending on how on what your budget looks like. But I agree with Epic that Apple's price, Apple's take should be lower. But at the same time, it's just not going to happen with this lawsuit. I don't see it happening. Now, the way Epic would have to fight this is by saying, well, like, the thing is that the way that I think of it now, I can't even remember the counter argument, because it almost makes the counter argument mute. Essentially, Epic is saying that Apple has a monopoly on their hands because they are the only app store on an Apple device. Yeah, there's only one app store, and you can't go to any other app store without breaking terms of service. Okay. But the thing is, that doesn't really matter, and it's not quite a monopoly, because the way that they're going to look at it is that, okay, so Apple has a monopoly, right? Well, is Apple the only company making cell phones? No. Google's making cell phones. Android's making cell phones. Motorola's making cell phones. Right? So Epic has to make it look like a small scale thing that you can only buy from the Apple Store and nowhere else. But it's just not true. I mean, it's true in the sense that in any iDevice, any iPad or iPhone, you can't buy from anywhere else. But then to say that, well, you can still get it on other phones or other tablets, that's what people are going to see. And then the thing is that if Apple gets thrown under this and they somehow win this, that also opens up ground for your consoles. So your Nintendo Switch, for example, only has the Nintendo Store, right? Well, what if Xbox wants to open up an Xbox Store? Or EA wants to open up an EA Store on the console? What could Nintendo do to stop that from happening if Epic wins this lawsuit? And then the same thing with the PlayStation, same thing with the Xbox. Like, you don't really think about it, but yeah, when you buy a console, you only have one shop to buy your games at least digitally. But no one complains about that. And that's why we have PC. Because PC, you have Steam, you have Epic Game Store, you have GOG, and you have a number of other websites like Fanatical. But when you're on a console, it's like everything that's being developed has to be developed for that console. So why should that be any different to an iPad or an iPhone? Why couldn't an iPad or an iPhone be considered a console at that point? So again, even if Epic wins and then there's a counter argument, that's made, exception made to consoles, then what if Apple brands their stuff as consoles and marks their stuff as consoles? Like, this is why the loopholes are there, and this is why things like this simply don't work. Arguments like this simply don't work, because there's always going to be another way to, I don't want to say get around the system, but to make it so like nothing ever happened. Everything's still going to be the same. Nothing's going to change. And either Epic decides to play ball or leave. And if they leave, then they have to make their own phones, essentially. Their own phones and tablets. So yeah, what Epic has is just not enough to say, yeah, they'll win. There's just not enough evidence there. Because the other thing Apple's going to, the main thing Apple's going to say is that it's for the security of their devices, that everything gets published and secured through their app store and no third-party stores. And again, like, where do you say stop and where do you say go? So I really don't think Epic has a place to stand in winning this fight. I would love to see them win it to some degree, but it's just not going to happen. I don't see it happening. I want it to happen. I don't know if it will or not. But in my mind, I don't see it happening. And this is after like months of thinking about it. Because I used to think, yeah, Epic has a right point, because you can't buy from any other app store on an iPhone. But the thing is that you can't treat the iPhone like an iPhone, like it's the only thing out there. You have to treat an iPhone like a cell phone. You have to treat an iPad like a tablet. And you can't say that there's only one operating system that these devices run on, because that's not true. And so if there are alternatives, then Apple doesn't have a monopoly. So you see, the better way that Epic could get around this, quote unquote get around this, is to put their game back on Google Play and never put it back on an Apple's device. And just have it available only on Android. Now, all of your Fortnite players, your mobile Fortnite players, they're going to have to ditch their iPads and their iPhones, and they're going to have to buy an Android device. And so, if I were Epic, I would get in contact with Google or Android, whoever. I would say we're dropping whatever we were going to file you, whatever lawsuit we were going to file you under. And we're going to ask for a partnership. We're going to give you however many millions of dollars to have our game be back on your devices. And we want, the cut to be a little less than 30%, whatever they're able to get it down to. And for like a short period amount of time, like let's say 6 months, that Epic is given, say, 5% of any sale of a hardware, of Android hardware. Any device that is running Android that gets sold, that's brand new, that gets sold for the next 6 months, Epic gets like 5% from each sale, something like that. Because essentially, like I said, you're going to make a partnership there so that the only mobile devices that can run Fortnite, aside from like a laptop or like a high-powered, Razer or whatever running on Linux, would be a Google device, would be an Android device. And that would hit Apple, I would think, harder than it would hit anything than this lawsuit would. So, again, if I were Epic, that's what I would. If I were an advisor to Epic, that's what I would say. That's the game plan I would give. I would say drop your lawsuit to Google ASAP and make a deal with them. Whatever millions they want, give it to them, and then ask for this, this, and this, and this. And if they're willing to play ball, if they're willing to do it, then you get money back. You get your games back on mobile devices, and you get to poke stab at Apple by not allowing your game on their device. And I know they may shy away from that a little bit because it's the exact opposite of what they're trying to go for, where any game should be able to be on any product. Which, at the time, yeah, it was possible. But it's not possible now because of the lawsuit he did. And I don't see Apple forgiving Epic anytime soon because of that. And again, I would not recommend Epic to give Apple any money. I would just say screw it. That bridge is burned and buried. Let's try to rebuild our relationship with Android and work from there. So that's all I have to say about that topic. So now I'm out of time, and I think I should focus a little more on getting author medal on this stupid track. Probably. That's not bad though. We got 2 topics out in a little less than 40 minutes, so about 20 minutes per topic. So you can kind of see, like, in regards to making videos and things like that, like these 2 topics I would make a separate video on. But because I'm live streaming now, I can actually just talk about it here. And then not just talk about it here, but also just say what I want to and think about it through while talking. Whereas if I were to make a video of it, it would be 10-15 minutes long, so about 5 to 10 minutes shorter than what's going to be here per topic. Oh, that sucks. And it's going to be cleaner. It's going to be easier to talk about, because I'm going to have everything written down. But here I'm just spitballing. I'm just trying to fill up as much time as possible with my voice to not let any dead air. And I think it's working. This turn is killing me, by the way. Like, I'm getting better at it, and it's not the turn that I'm messing up on, to be honest. It's the exit of the turn, and then it's this little shortcut I have to take here. That last little shortcut, I keep getting too much momentum to actually hold on to the dirt track. Ooh. I almost had something there. Let me check on some stuff. Hold on. Another issue. When making it so it's only on Google, make it a definite monopoly. To an extent, you can say that, but then Epic can back it off and say, well, it's on PC as well. And so if you have a PC, you can still play the game. You just can't play it on an Apple device. And then the thing is that that's a lot safer of an argument, because when you look at, well, the easy and obvious answer would be like, look at PlayStation or Xbox exclusives, right? Your Last of Us, and I can't remember what the other game is. Your Last of Us, your Jak and Daxter's, your Ratchet and Clanks. they're stuck on PlayStation because they're being developed by a company that has a contract to work specifically for Sony. So their games aren't available anywhere else. And then the same thing is that it could, I mean, Epic can't claim that, but there could also be like a coding barrier where like, well, I'm sorry, we just can't code the game for your console. Like, think of all the games that didn't come to the Wii or the Wii U, or a lot of games that still are not available on the Switch because of hardware issues or limitations, or because of there being just so much work that would have to be put in to make the game possible on that device that there's just no monetary value to be gained there to actually port it over. So I mean, I understand that argument, but that's why I would say to do that, because you can't get backlash for it other than by PR. It's like, well, you're doing the very thing that you said you didn't want to do. But it's too, like I said, it's just too late. You can't rebuild your business relationship with Apple anymore, unless you're willing to cash out. And I don't know how Google or Android is taking this, but I would say that they probably have a better chance of rebuilding their business with Google than they do with Apple. And like, it's also an argument because Apple banned Epic from the platform. So the only way they can get in trouble would be if Apple lifts the ban, and the product could then still be available on Apple. But there's just no law there that, I mean, I'm not a lawyer. I can't say anything like that. Don't take my, like, I'm just giving off advice, what I think would work. But you can't claim that a game is a monopoly if it's only available on the one device. You know, it's a lot stronger of an argument the other way around, where there's only one app store that anyone can buy their products from, because that can mean that, well, you can't get the game at a cheaper price, and what's there is there, what's done is done. Yeah, I see that, and to an extent, it is a monopoly. But it's only a monopoly in regards to Apple devices. That restraint isn't technically the same on a Google device, on an Android device. Uh-oh, I jumped over. Let me check. Okay, my phone's not catching up with this. I don't, man, if they did that, Epic might take a bigger hit by doing that, because now Epic seems to be the one to do the problem, since it looks like, well, Apple, you won't cave, so sucks to be y'all. Oh, did Epic get banned? Because in that case, I withdraw my previous comment. I must have missed that part. Yeah. Epic got banned, and Apple was threatening, I don't know if they did it or not, but they were threatening it to the point where any game on the Apple Store that was developed using the Unreal Engine, which is a product of Epic's, would be banned as well, by virtue of the game being being built with the same game engine. So yeah, like Apple doesn't play around with something like that. I know Google removed the game from their stores as well, which is why Epic gave Google the lawsuit as well. But I think that was a lot more reactionary than it was like, we care, because they never came up with a follow-up statement. They almost quietly just removed the game and didn't say anything else about it. That's why I feel Epic has a better shot of teaming up with Google than with Apple. Fortnite's Apple spoof makes a lot more sense now. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm on pause here, but I kind of have to right now. My phone is not being cooperative, so I'm not actually seeing chat on my phone. So I'm trying to do a small refresh on that. But yeah, that spoof. So like in the original context, okay, my phone is basically gave up tonight, I guess. Let me see. Yeah, my phone gave up. Okay. Thank you, phone, for being uncooperative. There was a ruling. Talk to me. Because I actually haven't heard anything. No one has talked about it. According to the article. This is interesting stuff. We got news breaks here. Epic Judge permanently restrains Apple from blocking Unreal Engine, but won't force Fortnite. Okay, so that makes sense. That makes sense, and that's a lot more reasonable. Because it would suck to have develop a mobile game on an Unreal Engine and then have it be taken away from you or from the market because of something the parent company did that you had nothing to do with. Yeah, Unreal is fine, but Fortnite has to get over itself, yeah. Which may or may not happen. Because I'm pretty sure they're still, like, trying to get things sorted from there. But I could be wrong. I'm really struggling on this track because of all the yammering. Let me see. But yeah, like I said, it's a somewhat gray area, but the more I thought about it, the less it made sense in that regard. Because I was all on the Epic train. It's like, yeah, Epic's going to win this, and Apple's going to have to think twice about what they do. But then, like, listening to other people talk about it and saying, well, you know, the thing that got me is that Apple isn't the only phone in town. Apple isn't the only tablet in town. And so that basically makes any argument Epic Games makes virtually mute. Like, they can say whatever they want about the 30% being too high, but that's Apple's decision. You know, it's the same thing with Steam. We'll do some digging. Okay. It's the same thing with Steam because Steam still charges 30%. Hopefully my chat is in sync now on my phone. We'll see. And Steam is still charging 30% per game, per sale. So everything that Epic's been doing to try and quote unquote force oh, to the point I said earlier. Yeah, go ahead. Apple has said it will allow Fortnite back in the App Store once Epic removes the in-app payment tool. Yeah. Yeah, once Epic removes the tool that bypasses Apple entirely, then they'll let the game back in. Like, the CEO of the CEO of Epic makes a lot of great points. But, funny enough, there's a lot of gamers out there who are against his tactics. And it makes sense to a degree. But hey, like, you made Fortnite, you made Unreal Engine 3, you made Unreal Engine 4, which is even more popular. You're making so many royalties off of any game using your engine. You're making so much money off it out of Fortnite. It does make sense to use that money to grow your company. And to do things that are a little more consumer friendly, even if it doesn't seem like it, which would include like buying out exclusives for a year. Minor applause to Apple. That's rather professional of them, not taking it personally. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Just that no one likes Apple. Like, Apple's great in regards to what they do. And um like the reason what makes Apple great is also what makes them quote unquote bad, which is that if you want an iPad or an iPhone, it has to be made by Apple. Motorola cannot make an Apple device. Sony cannot make a Apple device. Dell cannot. No other company can make an Apple device other than Apple themselves. Compare that to Microsoft or Windows, where Microsoft barely builds computers. All they have is the Surface tablets, and they used to have a Windows Phone. I think that got discontinued. But any company that wants to make a Windows machine can do so. Any company that wants to make an Android machine can do so. But Apple's the only one that's like, nope, no one can touch our hardware except us. And that does cause limitations, because essentially any app that you make has to be available for at least the last 2 generations of devices. So it's great in regards to that it's uniform, but it's not great in regards to like how would I say that, advancing technology. Because yeah, they come out with great technology. It will last you 5-10 years, if not longer. You may not get updates after year 9, but it's still a great machine overall. Usually. No. And so I can see Epic wanting to challenge that, because Apple's the only company that does that. Tech company that does that, rather. But Apple's cleared because they're not the only ones that make hardware. They're the only ones that make Apple hardware, but not the only ones that make hardware, period. It's a real. I thought there's a shortcut there, but no. It's a cool thing to talk about, I guess I would say. It's interesting, at least to me, to see someone challenge Apple for the very thing that makes Apple Apple. Alright, I'm out of my 2 subjects, so now on to rambling territory. Ow. What else? Let me actually put some radio silence on, and like this turn, I feel like I should take this turn a lot faster than what I do. I just haven't figured out how to. At least not consistently. No, turn. The turn radius of this thing, man, when it's up to speed, is like a freaking bus. It just does not want to. Unless you're on dirt, you'll happily turn on dirt. You just lose a ton of speed after it. Oh no, I rubbed the tires. I had a nice line going there. Turn! Nope. That was a little cleaner. I still had to stay off the gas for so long. Dive, car, dive. Nope. Turn! Alright. Okay, we got a new time. It's still not author though. Top 300, and we're not top 310, I guess. Top 350. And we're not even at author. That's insane. There's very few tracks where you can get under top 500 and not have author. Very few tracks. Like the tracks that tend to do that are either ice tracks because no one wants to play them, or a track that has a shortcut that 80% of people haven't figured out. And there was a very tricky, I won't want to say tricky, a very concealed shortcut that was on one of the tracks from last season. One of the tracks from last season that had a crazy shortcut. It has a ramp to it, and the thing is, in this game, it has a ramp that you turbo boost into. And typically, you don't want to stay in the air forever because you lose a lot of time. But the ramp just so happens to also be facing the finish line, and there are no checkpoints in between the ramp and the finish line, which means that if you're able to maneuver your car and hit the ramp just right, you jump over the last section of the entire track and then land in the finish line. Getting the angle necessary to do so, it was hard. Figuring out that that was what you had to do took way longer than way longer than what was necessary. I spent probably 3 hours on that track in total, like not just in one session, overall. Just going back to the track, lowering my time is like, I'm still don't have freaking author on this track. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. And then it dawned on me the one time that I like goofed up on the jump, and it's like, you know what, I'm just gonna ride the accelerator and we're gonna just go into space for a bit. And that's when I noticed, like, oh wait, I can actually jump to the finish line. But there's not, alas, that's not the kind of shortcut we need here, or we have here. The shortcut we have here is just on the dirt itself. These first few tracks have been very simple. Very simple. There's almost like a running theme to these. Because in the last season, there wasn't really a running theme. A lot of these tracks played very differently from one to the other. In this one, it's like they're all very similar. They're short. These few tracks, they're short. They have a tricky turn that makes you lose a lot of speed. And then they have a shortcut. And that's about it. And you have to learn how to take the turn. the one tricky turn at the right spot, and then you have to learn a shortcut. And then you have to go however many dozens, if not hundreds of attempts before you get the actual speed you need to get through it and make a perfect lap. Like that. I was hoping to get an author medal after that. Thank you for proving me wrong, game. 28.096. I'm hoping author's at 28 flat. It probably isn't. Let me check chat. I mean, I feel Epic could get around by developing their own phone and OS. They already got the Epic Store. Yeah, that would really be the only thing they could do. Honestly, Minor Plus. Yeah, okay, I read that one. Yeah, Epic, if they make their own phone, yeah, they can do that. But in regards to financing, it would be a hell of a lot cheaper to say, hey, our game, if you want to play it on mobile, it's only on Android. No longer available on Apple. If you are able to make a partnership with Google doing that, you can cause harm to Apple, because people who would buy an iPad now has to buy an Android device. People who are in between phones now would probably consider buying Android. And if you're able to work in, you know, a deal there where Epic gets a percentage of a small percentage, like a royalty type percentage per sale for the first 6 months to a year of hardware sales, you're going to make up all that money back that you just gave to Google. And Google's going to make all sorts of cash because they're doing absolutely nothing. Like, there's literally, it's a win-win scenario, and this is a way to get yourself back on the mobile market and dig yourself out of the hole without having to go into research and development, making your own phone, protecting it from any vulnerabilities that phones typically can get hacked and stuff like that. So it would be a lot safer in regards to just teaming up with Google. Because if anything happens hardware-wise, you have nothing to do with it. That's all on fault of Android and whatever updates they make. And believe me, if this does happen, if it ever does, Androids are going to be sought after, one, and they're going to be targeted a lot from hackers and well, hackers, what's the other, homebrew communities and things of that nature, jailbreakers, because you can jailbreak a Google device, it's just not called that. 28.45, so I guess I knocked off a little bit there, but not a full second.